You about ready?
They just maybe didn't have the sales.
Okay.
It always seemed crowded.
Ladies, about ready?
Yes.
Okay. Ladies, all set?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's off now. Look at that.
Welcome to the Essex Junction Trustee meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody, and if you haven't signed in, please do so. And first order of business, agenda additions, subtractions.
I wish, sir. There
Okay.
are 5 additions.
Never a subtraction.
No, there isn't. I'm sorry. First order is agenda item 5A. It's a correction to the recreation bond payment memo that you received in your electronic packet. And new business item 6C, it's correspondence from Alex McEwing regarding the 2-hour limit for parking in front of 34 Park Street. Agenda addition to the reading file, 8I, it's from Brenda Bennett, who has nice things to say about the work that was done recently in our paving. Top quality, efficient, smooth, and remarkable were 4 words that came to her immediately,
Great.
which is good to know. And then reading file 8J, it's from Susan McNamara Hill, and she is stepping away from the Essex Rexview Community Advisory Board. And then lastly, the memo, should you need to use executive session for personnel, the recommended motions approved by Dave Barra.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
that's it.
Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Agenda is amended as directed. So, first order of business, public comments, anyone in the public? Raj, Dylan, you both good? So first order of business is Lieutenant Robert Kissinger, Essex Police, and we're going to be discussing traffic safety at 5 Corners. Welcome. Thanks for coming here this evening. We appreciate you taking the time off. Do you want to come up here and join us? And I'll do my best to reintroduce the subject, and it's timely because someone from the Bike Walk Committee here too, because I think what we were talking about is traffic safety at 5 Corners, and is there something we could be doing differently, maybe not just in terms of enforcement, but in terms of other things, other infrastructure, lights, signs, pavement marking, something like that. So
We're trying to find a solution. We've had an increase of people running red lights, and we've tried reworking signs with AOT, so now the pedestrian crossing comes after the Pearl Street traffic instead of Maple Street traffic. Route 15 is the main corridor, so anyone trying to go in and out of Chittenden County's got to come through Essex if they're not taking the interstate. That's part of the problem that we have. The traffic is split between the Susie Wilson Road bypass and the 5 Corners. Then you have all the traffic coming from Willis, and this is kind of a congestion hotspot. We're trying to work with AOT further to have all the lights be in sync on Park Street. They're not quite always in sync, and once you have the light trip at Iroquois, that backs things up to the 5 Corners, so there's pretty much a gridlock at the 5 Corners, and I think everybody's been victim of that. So we're trying to tweak things here or there best we can to try and alleviate the problems that we're having.
did it seem to get worse because of the paving? We were kind of thinking that maybe the smooth, since there are so many ruts in the road, people can go faster or what, you know?
Yeah, I don't see an increase of speed. The traffic picks up always when the school comes back in session, whether it be college or local schools. You have double the amount of traffic trying to get through to drop kids off to school or going to work.
Yep. Yes, please take over. Next questions.
How about non-structural things? So more along the lines of education or public service announcement or signs. Do you, from your experience, think anything we could do in that regard would help? And not just 5 Corners, but all over the community. There seems to be a lot of speeding, running stop signs.
Public service announcements would definitely help, I think. Signs, you get to the point where you have too many signs, it just
Yeah.
becomes oblivious. We've tried using speed sentries to help be proactive. Using speed sentries helps validate people's claims of speeding and helps us use resources wisely as far as putting officers there at specific times instead of a general complaint of speeding in the neighborhood. So we try to use that to be proactive for the speed complaints as best we can. And after a while, you see people get oblivious to the signs, even though it flashes the speed,
Yeah.
they just, they tune that after a while. So I don't think signage is going to be our best measure of preventative maintenance on speeding and red light violations.
How about, what is the, and I don't know if there's a general policy or a practice on enforcement? So ticketing versus warnings versus, just having a conversation. Do you think if there was, and I don't know what it is, so general question, if there were more tickets being given out, would that settle things down a little bit?
I don't think it would, because people get ticket for speeding and they still speed. They don't pay attention. Currently, it's the officer's discretion whether people get a warning or a ticket.
Okay.
Most officers will take into the individual's past history. If they have a clean driving record, they'll probably get a warning. If they've had a very colorful traffic history, then more than likely, they'll probably get a ticket for that violation.
Does a warning go into the system so that the next time they're stopped, you know that there's been a warning given, or does that not even go in the system?
Everything goes in the system.
Okay.
We do not give verbal warnings on occasion. That might warn it, but most everything is written, so
Okay.
there is something.
Those subtract,
Right now, Chittenden County, there's two different systems going on. We use the one that state police used to operate. Burlington has one that they operate with all the other agencies in Chittenden County, Valcor. So sharing of the information is not as fluent as one would hope.
okay.
But we can find out if they have a history. It just takes a little bit more to get into that system.
So why are we operating two different systems?
I can't answer that question.
That's fine.
I have an idea. It's because they wanted certain aspects to their system, and the current system didn't do that.
Okay.
However, now, the new system has caught up to Valcor with changes in it.
Okay.
Other questions?
Is there anything that we can do in terms of striping or other, not even infrastructure related, but actually just painting on the streets to sort of focus people and slow them down?
Everything has to be standardized by highway safety guidelines, so adding additional markings I don't think is going to be permissible, given the federal guidelines for road markings and lane markings.
What if we put a big sign in the corner of in the middle of Five Corners? I'm serious. It'll make people
What
slow
would the-
down.
What would the sign say?
Slow down.
Okay.
Follow the rules. I don't know, but it would get people's attention for a day.
Is it speeding or is it people going through the red light? That's kind of what I've heard. It's not so much speeding, it's that
Well, They're
people
speeding to
get up there
through
and
the
they've
red
got-
light.
They're pulling to get through the light, right.
And I do want to reiterate, my concern isn't just the Five Corners. I walk a lot in the community. When the high school gets out, those kids are flying down North Street, Grove Street, Educational Drive, Old Colchester Road, and they don't care who's in the way. So for me, it's not just Five Corners, although that's what we're focused on tonight. But
Sounds like the high school should be
should have
at the
some.
table.
Do you work with high school? Is there any, I know there's a safety coordinator in the high school, right?
There is,
Okay.
no lawyer.
And is there any coordination between PD and that person
We usually talk with him weekly
Okay.
on other issues, but it's pretty much whatever is needed to be discussed is brought up with Mr. Laware. In the past, we've had residents complain about speed, and we've actually put this monitors on on the surrounding streets, Mansfield, and just
Right,
to try and get an idea of what speeds are being achieved on those streets. The speed bumps have helped a little bit, but yeah, they
Yeah.
still,
I know they wanna get out of school, but ridiculous.
Just to follow up, Mr. Luer was contacted by yours truly to come here tonight, but he had planned a 2-week vacation in the wilds of Canada for hunting.
Good for him.
So he was unable to join.
So we can maybe get him some other time?
We'll get him another
Okay.
time. He said he'd be available.
Okay, thanks.
Well, it sounds to me like other than alleviating the congestion, there's not a whole lot we can do. We can try some public outreach, but I'm gonna guess that probably a lot of the people aren't from around here. We're not gonna, we can try to reach them, but they're
Yeah.
beyond our reach.
yeah, I'd say 90% of traffic's all commuter traffic.
Mhm.
Wow, that much.
So along those lines though, with what you were saying before about the database and how there's 2 different ones, we're the only ones that don't have what like Burlington is using.
They
Is that what you were
all,
saying?
they all left, so it's a web-based program. We currently use Spillman, which was brought on by the state 20-something years ago. And the improvements to Spillman was limited by funds. That has since changed, and they've made all the improvements that needed. Valcor has its own issues and problems, that's why we have not left Spillman to go to that system.
But for those drivers who have a colorful record that's in one system, you pull them over and there's nothing in our system. Is it then that the officer, if they don't check the other system or take that extra step, could then go on without being taken care of in the way that they maybe need to?
No, when we run a license check, we would see that through Department of Motor Vehicles. We wouldn't necessarily see the warnings, but we would see all the tickets that they've gotten previously. So they wouldn't necessarily go away without any type of enforcement.
Okay.
There was a hand up, Raj had his hand up. Raj, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I just, the other day, being one of those people that tries not to have to drop his kid at ADL as much as humanly possible, I had to the other day. Called PD because there was we don't need to do this thing here. A white truck that basically went in the left lane from Elm Street all the way to Five Corners at quite a rate of speed. 2 kids had to come back up off the street when they were crossing. And this isn't a new occurrence. I realize the pylon's gone, although that creeps up all year long because people move it or hit it. And I know the crescent connector's coming in, but there's a lot of, I think there actually is a lot the community can do over the next 4 or 5 years. There's a lot of structural road and sidewalk altering and buffers that can be produced. And I really encourage you guys to look into some of that over the next 4 or 5 years, especially after the crescent connector's built. Narrowing streets, narrowing intersections, making it difficult for people to go fast, will do a lot to slow people down. And you know, we heard from the bicycle officers that you guys have, the students that do the summers with you, that we have a lot of problems with students popping out of Maple Street in the street on their bikes riding the wrong way. That whole corridor down there is really dangerous.
Yes.
And I would say, you know, if you guys had to put anybody anywhere, anytime, it's in the morning. I noticed the 2 officers writing plates down in the morning. I don't know if they follow up or not, but they do seem interested in,
Yes.
they're paying attention. But having another officer on one of those side streets, just kind of watching people be idiots.
And they are, I mean, there's, I'm
It's
sorry to
it's
say
a
it, but
miracle
that's-
we haven't had a kid taken out a week
It
here.
Oh, I know.
Just a miracle.
I know, the problem you're talking about, Maple Street, people cutting into the oncoming traffic to make to get across the tracks so they can take the left-hand turn.
And off
It's
Educational
crazy.
Drive, when they come out and they come up to that intersection, that's a weird intersection by the tracks, and
Yep.
divvy up into the neighborhood,
Yep.
flying through there.
Yeah,
You know, and to Raj's point, so if signs lose their effectiveness and enforcement loses their effectiveness, and 90% of the traffic is outside of Essex, so public service announcements are gonna lose their effectiveness, then we do need to start looking at structural things to slow traffic down. And, you know, I'm sorry to say, because that would be a public outcry as well, that we're slowing traffic down, but
Right.
we are a walking and biking community, and I think it's really important that the village maintain that designation, because there's few of them in Vermont left. And it brings people here, and it also gives the village some vibrancy to it. And I don't know, who's out and about, but a lot more people are walking in this community now, and it's great. And we need to make sure we're doing everything we can to help
Okay.
protect that. My brief point.
It's a good point. It's a good point. No one says a
No,
word.
I was just gonna say, I agree with Lori, and, the bulb, whatever, the bulb out, or whatever, put bump outs on the road down here by, the railroad tracks. Maybe, 10 years ago they put those, when they
Yep.
pushed it out. It does slow the traffic down, but it's also, it's a double-edged sword. We're a
It
biking
is.
and walking community, we're also the major thoroughfare for, like the lieutenant is saying, for commuter traffic coming out of Underhill, Jericho, Cambridge, and Westford and other towns. And short of a circumventional highway that would relieve a boatload of that traffic, especially the big trucks, we're stuck with what we've got.
And we do have to be cognizant of the fact that we are a major throughway for other communities. But my first priority is to the people of Essex Junction and to the kids that are out.
Oh, I agree
on
with
streets.
you, I agree with you, and I'm just saying that but there's no clear-cut answer, you try
Yeah,
to do
there
the best you
isn't.
can, and it's not gonna get any better, because the amount of people is increasing, the traffic has increased over the 30 years
Right.
I've been in law enforcement, and the 20-some-odd he's been in law enforcement,
I just wish, I'm sorry, Pat, I go to St. Albans, I go to Montpelier. People stop.
I think you see that when you're there, but I think, I grew up in Montpelier.
Well,
I'm from Montpelier, I'm from the state, and I'm telling you right now, I see the same things go on everywhere. And I've traveled this state, but patrolled this state. It happens, maybe you don't see it when you're there, but it does happen, I guarantee you.
I'm sure it does, but I don't think it happens at the frequency that it
Well,
happens.
I think the thing you gotta, I'm not disagreeing with it at all.
Yeah,
And I think we
okay.
need to do a shotgun approach, try
Yeah.
everything. But the thing that's different here is that if you're going to, like St. Albans, then you're going to St. Albans. People here are
Right.
going from Williston and they're going up to Jericho, and we're just in the way.
Right,
And they
We
have a
need
different mindset.
to
you
change
know?
that
I would
perspective,
encourage
yes.
you to remember, though, that our speed limit is 25,
Yes,
most of the way through the village, in all directions.
Yep,
So we're just asking people to slow down to that.
right.
Yep.
So by narrowing roads and doing all that, you're basically not slowing them down beyond 25, you're telling them they have to be more alert. And you're telling them they have to be more careful, because they're driving in a narrower space.
yeah.
So they should only expect to get a certain throughput through a village that has a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. for 2
Exactly,
miles.
I agree with you.
So,
yes.
If we're slowing them down, great,
It's too
we're
bad.
getting them back to where they should be.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll find another way to get them through. But for now, that's, and we're also not talking on the main, always the main thoroughfares.
Oh, I mean, it's the side
No.
streets as well.
That whole neighborhood between there,
Oh, it's
Yeah.
all, it's
It's
South
chaos.
Street and all that in there.
You
School
know,
Street,
so-
they go the wrong way.
Yeah.
it's just, I hear what you're saying there, I just think that,
Yep.
getting them to where they should be is still a challenge.
Your question about the lieutenant, are there automated ways to detect, to detect speed violations, running of red lights, running of stop lights that are then or stop signs that are then enforceable, and that could then be ticketable, if you the phrase?
There are systems that are available. There are none currently in Vermont. We'd have to see if the traffic bureau would entertain that, because you'd be writing tickets based on
Yeah,
automated visual pictures of license plate and drivers. If you cannot visually see that driver, you would not be able to essentially mail a ticket out. So that's something that would have to be looked into to see if the traffic bureau would even entertain that type of enforcement, but that technology is available.
I got a ticket that way,
Someone's gotta be the first.
in another state.
Yeah.
Could look into it.
And I'm putting myself out here, and I'm only one experience, but when I was in my early 20s, I did speed, and I did get a lot of tickets, and I did lose my license, and I don't speed, and I wear my seatbelt, and I'm much more cognizant of what's going around me because of that experience. So I don't want people to lose their license, but I do feel enforcement for some are going to make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, people, where do you want to take, oh, sorry, Pat.
Just like to add one more dimension to this discussion, and that is the human dimension. we are sorely in need of additional patrol officers,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna address that, in part with a multi-year approach.
That's a good point.
And following up on Raj's multi-year approach for the infrastructure solution, so I think we need more, I know we need more people, it's just a matter of how many we can afford and how to incrementally push that through. So
Well,
hold on to these great thoughts at town meeting time when it comes time to vote for them.
Yeah, I think it's a good point to make, and it probably is good message to get out to people at town meeting time. If we do need more enforcement, and if you want to address this, one of the ways, it's not gonna solve everything, but one of the ways is to
No.
support.
It's just one more piece to the
Yeah.
puzzle to try to
Yeah, okay, good point.
stay current with the problem.
So other thought, where do you want to take this, guys? Do you want to continue this discussion, talk about some infrastructure things as well, now that we have sort of an enforcement perspective?
I think if we're going to talk about the kids in the school, I think getting former lieutenant from Burlington Police, Bill Ware, who works there as a resource officer, the safety officer, would be great
Yeah.
to have an impact there. And the public forums, when we have town meeting, village meeting, bring this up to the people that show up. Keep hammering it home, you know? It will always be there. You know, speeding, I was on a traffic safety team for the state for many, many years. And we'd hit an area and we'd have an effect on that area. But then, you know, it's like weeds growing up, and you pull the weeds and they come back, and you just it's something that just continues to go on.
Right, yeah, I agree with you, and there's no one solution,
Right,
and we're gonna have to,
Yeah.
we're gonna keep having this conversation, but,
yes.
I would love to see Bill come in and talk
Mhm.
to us as well.
Okay. And let's maybe at some point have Rick Hamlin come in and
Mhm.
see if he's got some innovative ideas about something that we
Yeah.
can do
That'd be great.
in terms of new infrastructure projects as they occur around Five Corners and other parts of the village. If there's some little thing that can happen, that would help.
Well, and to that point, I'm wondering if there's any data on, besides the Five Corners, any data that the police can provide on areas that seem to attract more problems than others, so that we're not, we're trying to tackle some of the major areas, not do the whole village. I don't know if that's.
Are you looking for speed complaints? What
I'd
type
say
of
speed and running of red lights and
stop signs?
stop signs and going wrong way on one-way streets and, anything that you might have, just to help us narrow our focus, so that we have, if we can target some high-stress areas, we could maybe make some more immediate progress and then move on to other areas.
Right off the top of my head, South Street, West Street is another big one because of the traffic going to Global Foundries. And subsequently, people trying to miss the Five Corners will also take that route. And that's usually heavily enforced
Okay.
for speed.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what we can do as far as enforcement to get people to slow down
Yeah.
on that one.
Well, if you could automate, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, the radar units that are set up there to post the speed as people approach, I think those, Lieutenant, have had a big impact. I travel that road all the time because I live right off of South Street and go up through West Street, and it has had an impact, I believe, on the speed, just what I've
They're
seen.
great tools.
Yep. I mean, they come on flashing, and it really gets people to look and slow down.
Yeah, they do.
And I just go back to the automated piece, where if you're able to get the same number of citations with an automated system that can then free up officers to do other
Right.
things,
It's true.
then that's two birds with one stone, because you're able to then free
You
you
have
guys
to
up
hire
to do other
another,
things. But
another person to take care of that. You would safely say probably writing in excess of 50 tickets or more a day from an automated system.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
You'd have to hire another person to deal with the tickets
Tickets
full-time,
that are- okay.
to write them, issue them, if the traffic bureau
Would
does
allow
it.
it.
But if you were to put those out at different locations where there are traffic control signals, you would probably get 50 a day.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't know what the cost is of that. Is that even something that comes out to close to a wash, or?
For a person, you know?
But the other thing, it's probably something that has to be approved by the state of Vermont
Right.
to allow for that, just because of the laws, like the lieutenant's saying, with in traffic enforcement and how you
We have to
can
testify.
testify in court and can use that. There's a lot of hoops that have to be gone through before you can even see that.
Right.
I know what you're talking about. It happens actually on the interstate system in Florida and other states where they've done away with the tolls. So now it takes a picture of the vehicle as they're going through and they send the ticket to you. So it's, it's done in other places, but
So the hoops have been jumped through. It's just someone in Vermont.
in
has to do it.
Vermont hasn't,
Right.
yeah, they gotta
Right.
approve it at the state level.
Only our state legislators were here today.
And really passionate about this issue, and passionate.
Trying to-
See what I can do.
Okay. Any other questions for,
Thank you for all that you're doing.
Kissing?
We appreciate it. I know it's not an easy job.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll continue this conversation, but with some
Thank you.
other discussion. Okay.
Look forward to a report from,
Okay, so we are now on to old business. I think that was it, right, for guests and presentations. We're on to old business, acknowledgement of the assumption of debt. Lauren?
Yes. So when we took on, made the recreation department part of the village municipality, we also budgeted for their pool debt, but the Vermont Municipal Bond Bank would like us an official acknowledgement of the fact that we are going to be taking responsibility for that pool debt. And that's what this memo is about, is for us to assume this debt. And you just need to sign on it,
Yeah.
accept it, and do the
Okay.
resolution.
And Pat, you told me that this is not the first, but this has already been this is not gonna represent a bump. This is, the bump has already happened
The
in the
bump
village
has
budget.
already been absorbed, yes.
Okay.
Which wasn't really a bump because it shifted from one to the
Yes,
other.
Yeah.
it all
Yeah,
took
it's-
place in July of
It's
Yeah.
gonna,
this year.
it's gonna
Yeah.
be paid off in short fashion too.
And it will, yeah, one more
It will
year
be
after
done
this.
in FY '20.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which will be a good thing.
yeah.
Okay, do I hear a motion? Or I can make the motion. I will move that the trustees formally resolve to acknowledge assumption of the VMBB indebtedness evidenced by the 1999 Series 1/2009 Series 2 refunded bond, and to the fullest extent permitted by law unconditionally and irrevocably pledge the full faith and credit of the village for the payment of the same in accordance with the terms thereof. I hope everyone knows exactly what that means.
I'll second. No, Dan second.
Dan seconded. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you.
Thank you, now he has to sign that afterwards, right?
Yes, he does have to sign.
So now, do we have another old business? We're all in new business now and agenda additions and
Let's see,
so
let's
forth.
see. No, there's no old business on the
Okay.
additions.
So we are on to new business, and item number 1 is discuss the recent front porch forum posting, and I'll do that. That was I put that in here, and what I was initially going to just put this in the reading file. If you read is everyone familiar with the posting that occurred? Because it was very disturbing. I mean, it's fine for people to get angry, I thought, about people's comments and ideas and plans and dreams and so forth, but when the comments get personal and derisive and verbally abusive, they should not be published, or they at least shouldn't be published by an online newsletter that we financially contribute to. We can't be inviting people to come to our public meetings, and as part of the public meeting process, they get made fun of in a medium that we support. So I wrote a letter to Front Porch Forum, and I think Nina Chill wrote back, and she did apologize. It slipped through the cracks. They should not have allowed that comment to have been published, because the person in question was a private citizen, and that you can't say stuff like that about private citizens, and they acknowledged the error. So I appreciated their apology, and I told Nina I appreciated it. And I was then gonna just put it all in the reading file, but I wanted to just read about it and just have a little bit of discussion so that we're on record, because I am concerned with the volume that goes through Front Porch Forum, that something like this could happen again. And if it were to happen again or to keep happening, I think we'd really need to think about some additional action. So I don't know, Elaine, did you have some thoughts about this?
No, I'm really happy that Front Porch Forum stepped up and acknowledged the situation, because generally they're very hands-off about comments. So that's a really good thing, and I agree that we should keep an eye out, and this is just something that isn't really supportable.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't supportable at all.
Can I just make one comment?
Yes, please.
So I agree, the posting should not have been allowed, and I'm thankful that you reached out and talked to them about it, and we do need to monitor it. But I firmly believe that Mr. Handy, in this regard, is not a private citizen. He's coming to build a development. He could also take action on this as well. And so my concern is that we just remember that he's a public citizen on this.
But-
That's my personal opinion.
It may be, when you're in a public hearing, everything that you say and do is part of the public record, so I get that. But there was no need for the comments.
There was absolutely no need for the comments, no. But I want to make sure that we're focusing on the fact that the comments should not have been
Personal.
personal and should not have been posted, that people are not thinking we are trying to protect Mr. Handy.
I am-
There
I-
is two separate issues,
I
completely
have
separate
absolutely
issues there.
no problem with anyone's ideas, comments, statements, words being treated completely disrespectfully. It doesn't really matter. I don't care. That's fine. But when we start attacking someone's appearance,
Absolutely.
and, to take it to the extreme, if someone came and if someone with a disability came and they were made fun of,
Yes.
that's the extreme example. This isn't quite that bad, but it's still in that vein. You just don't go there.
Yep.
And I would just say, if I could just say, our planning commission process, we're requiring applicants to come or their representatives.
Right.
So we can't say, you must come and run the gauntlet of being made fun of.
Right, no, and exactly, and I absolutely agree with you, but I think what you're saying is correct, and I just wanted to make sure that we have that distinction
Okay.
for the people who are watching on Channel
Well, and I
17.
wouldn't limit it to personal appearance. I would
Any
not be
personal
in.
attack is.
Right, I mean, you can criticize the ideas that are brought forward.
Absolutely.
And you
Right.
can be unhappy with them, but there's no call for being disrespectful to anybody
Right.
for any reason.
Right. But sometimes lively public debate gets disrespectful about people's comments,
Yes.
but not personal.
Yes.
And I think that's the key thing.
Can I ask Lori a question?
Yes.
Did I understand you to be saying that if I'm a private citizen, a developer, and I come before a planning board or a DRB or a zoning board, I've lost my private status in that meeting? So,
Well, you're on public record.
but I haven't lost my private status.
Who knows, you haven't lost your private status.
So, if somebody said something to me, either from the board or from the audience, that was slander or libelous, I mean, I can pursue
Yeah.
that. That's an actionable thing, I don't lose that.
And
like
my
you and
point
I,
was, Mr. Handy could pursue it if he wanted to.
Okay, I just want to be.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
My thing is perception. We are not protecting Mr. Handy.
Yes.
We are saying the comment that was made will not be tolerated, and that we need a Front Porch Forum to make sure they understood that. But
Thank
we
you.
as a trustee board are not protecting Mr. Handy.
Thank you.
And let me add, we are, as elected officials, they can make fun of us as much as they want.
And they do,
Well,
right,
And they
they
do,
do.
and they do,
That was-
and that's fine, it's just fine, but,
Right.
but people who haven't been elected, run
Yes.
for office, they need a certain amount of shielding. Okay, I didn't want to beat this to death, I just wanted
No, just-
to raise that. Anyone else have any, there's no decision here, any other comments? So we can move on, and we are moving on to an amendment to personnel regulations, holiday schedule. Susan McNamara Hill, Pat, do you want to
I
speak to this?
think Lauren has volunteered
Lauren, you going to speak to this?
So the recreation department,
It's very annoying.
Popular.
Phone calls.
maybe my roof is falling apart, I don't know.
Is that your stockbroker?
It's my roofer. So the recreation department functions a little differently than the rest of the village. And so we're finding this out as time goes on. And the first time we found out was Bennington Battle Day, when they all needed to work and we were gonna take it off. So Brad contacted Susan and asked her if she could work on a way around this, and he made actually suggestions to the language for the personnel regs that you've got before you. So he would like it changed. I don't know if you want me to read this.
Yes, but yes, if you
Okay,
can't, yes, please.
It is recommended that section 303 of the personnel regulations be amended to contain the following language. The Essex Junction Recreation and Parks will not close on President's Day, Bennington Battle Day, Columbus Day, and Veterans Day unless these days align with a day that the Essex Westford School District is scheduled to be off. In lieu of these holidays, Essex Junction Recreation and Parks shall close when the school district is closed due to inclement weather. If by May 1, there have not been 4 closed days, employees will be given the remaining days as personal holidays. Employees shall work or use paid leave for any additional days beyond 4 that schools are closed. So we would like to have this language in our personnel regs, and it's, you know, we already do, the Public Works and Wastewater have their President's Day is different. They take a day in July, and the rest of us take a day in February, so it's not unprecedented to do this.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Lauren. Any questions for Lauren about this?
I have a few questions. So with it being inclement weather, I get the intent of it, given the time frame that these happen. Is that any different than if the school closes because of safety issues? This past year, that's happened a few times.
I don't think so.
So I guess
You
If-
wanna have that included in the language?
my assumption
I
is
think
if
it would
the
be
schools-
applied anyway.
Yeah, my assumption is if the school's closed for any purpose, then the after-school program doesn't have work, and if they don't have work, they're not showing up. Is it,
Well, the only thing I could see is with inclement weather, the children wouldn't have gotten to school anyways, whereas an incident you're talking about, there could be, if you're talking about, say, a bomb scare or such, or like type event, children will have already been at school, and then, you know, there probably is a need to keep the rec program open so that some of these young kids especially can maybe go to a program after, or wherever they go, they can turn to that as a place to go. Whereas obviously parents are notified when it's schools canceled due to weather. The unanticipated events is a different scenario, I think.
so that this, my understanding, if my memory is correct, which it isn't always, this past year when there was, at least the incident that happened, I know, when Hiawatha closed.
Mm-hmm.
They closed early because of the safety incident that happened at the high school, the district closed in the junction. When that happened, the after-school program didn't run. The school closed, kids were all sent home.
But that wouldn't be a full day off for the staff at EJRP.
Right,
Yeah, this is
for
for
full
the
days.
full-time staff.
and for hourly staff.
Yeah, but they're full-time.
Okay.
So it's a planned full day off.
People who
versus
get
you get half a day
holidays,
to do-
you know, the part-timers don't
Makes
get
sense.
holidays,
Mhm.
so it's,
Okay. And then, so my other question, this isn't too much of like a logistical nightmare to try to keep in mind, have it been 4 days or not? Have we?
no, our payroll system's pretty easy to use to track this stuff.
And perhaps optimistically speaking, over time, maybe we can come up with something that's a little more even across the board. And that could be accomplished if these employees become part of the association. Then a lot of this could be managed at the collective bargaining table. So, because you could break down the holiday schedule by departments.
So we've already gone through 3 holidays that the rest of the village had off, and the recreation department didn't, so we need
And
to
when
do
they
something
were,
about it.
I know,
and
I'm
when
sure
they
they are.
were within the schools, they followed the school schedule, so this
Yes.
wasn't an issue.
It was not an issue.
Okay. All right, I make a motion that the trustees approve the amendment to section 303 of the general rules and personnel regulations as worded in the attached draft amendment.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Thank you, Warren.
Thank you.
And now we are on to an amendment to the motor vehicle ordinance.
Parking, there's a topic we haven't heard much of.
No.
So the issue this evening is the trustees to approve an amendment to the motor vehicle ordinance to allow for short-term parking in front of a business on Park Street owned by Dennis Brusso, that's East Coast Printers. He's requesting limited time parking in front of his business. It's a problem for him because full-time employees elsewhere park, and his customers have a tough time parking close enough to his business, and we all know that customers like to be very close to the store in which they're shopping.
Yes.
So, in order to accomplish this, we need to amend the motor vehicle ordinance, chapter 8 of our municipal code. Thusly, it's recommended that the trustees amend chapter 8, section 803, regulation of motor vehicles of the Essex Junction Municipal Code by adding the following. Park Street, there shall be a 2-hour parking limit on the easterly side for 3 parking spaces in front of 34 Park Street, Suite 10. Now, in the letter that Mr. Brusso has sent to us, he has 11 spaces, 2 of which are handicapped. And so he's asking for 2-hour limits in case people who want to park there all day, park there all day. So our police department could be called and some selective enforcement would be accomplished. We also have a letter that was an addendum to the meeting from Alex McEwing, also supporting this request. And maybe Alex will be coming before us himself in a year or so. But, so, it comes to you as that recommendation.
Okay. Dan?
I agree with this. I brought this up at prior meetings before the board. I have a big issue with long-term use of parking spaces. There's one over on Railroad Street where a guy parks a van there. I think he's in real estate business, and he parks it there day on day for many hours, all day long. It's obviously a troubling issue for people and businesses on Railroad Avenue when you have people, going for the bus or for a train and parking their car. We don't have meters, so we don't have a way to enforce it in that way, that realm. But this, if we were to allow for this, we should have clear language on spaces that are marked as such. You are subject to being towed, you are subject to paying for the removal of the vehicle, for getting the vehicle back. And after a couple people get hooked and out of there and they pay a hefty towing bill, you'll see, you wanna talk about how you can change
Right.
motor vehicle stuff.
Behavior.
When you start hitting when you lose
Yeah.
your vehicle
Yeah.
and you're calling for a wrecker, that changes behavior very quickly.
Yeah.
I would be amenable to just changing the recommended motion to just be that what Mr. McEwing is suggesting.
For all the spaces,
So all the spaces on the side instead of just 3.
I agree.
I just want to ask the question, what about enforcement? What about when someone says, well, yeah, I was here, and then I left, and now I came back again? I mean, how do you know that someone's only been there 2 hours? That's my only question. I'm not saying I'm opposed to this, but just as a philosophical.
Enforcement will be difficult unless you have a walking beat or you have somebody with the little chalk
Right.
that you can hit the back of the tires with at a certain time.
Whose job would
And
that
when we
be?
get more patrol officers,
I mean, it's just a thing about passing unenforceable.
yeah.
The other thing is,
Yeah.
enforcing parking doesn't require a certified law enforcement
Yeah.
officer. The issue that we're talking about is parking. The meter maids in Burlington, the people that enforce Burlington parking are not law enforcement officers. So you're not paying, for all the benefits and all the training that you get regular officer. So
Right.
it would be less expensive, and I think it would have a proactive,
I do too.
result or effect on the community. I think it'd be a positive thing. I would support the village or the town, maybe we can mention the select board, see if they would pursue this with the police department to get some parking enforcement or something, because no matter where, I think it's important to have that.
I would be, I'm in favor of this, I'm just concerned about the towing part, because I'd hate the idea of towing someone's car, you don't actually know that they were.
That's what I'm saying, that's why parking, it happens in Burlington, George.
All right.
I see it, and I've dealt with it myself.
Well, they
And
mark their
they,
tire.
They know it,
Yeah.
and just as much as you get a certain number of violations, they can just start with writing tickets. They write it down, you go into the database, Spillman is the system he's talking about, boom, it pops up, then you pull up, you know, Vermont tag XYZ, they've got 3 parking tickets for this type of 2-hour violation, now you're gonna be hooked. And after a certain, there's language, there's a way to work around it, and I guarantee
Okay.
it'll have a positive effect on this.
I'm curious about enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, we're putting something in place that,
We should have asked Officer Kissinger to
Yeah.
Well, I would think that the first, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would think that the first step would be to put something in place, and then we can figure out, when I say we, staff people can figure out how best to try to enforce it.
Okay.
The fact that it's there, if we advertise it's there, that may in and of itself cause some
Right.
behavior.
Right.
And then, you know, we could put on some of the towing charges, you know, because the police have that, because they, you know, circulate the business. And they are steep, and they are stiff, and you don't want to have that happen to you. So, no, I think this would be a good first step, and I think we can work towards enforcement.
So would we be putting a sign in front of each parking spot?
We would have to. We would have to come up with something like that. Notice is important.
So now, there was some discussion in here,
I think our parking
2
places-
versus 6, what are people thinking here? Do you want to do all of them, or what are you talking
well,
about?
there's parking on both sides, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I say the side they're referencing, we do
On
all
the
of
East
them.
Coast printer side, on the side with the restaurant and
We do all of them,
I'd say all non-handicap.
2-hour parking only.
yeah,
Okay.
and then we talk about enforcement.
Handicap's exempt from the parking, we have a handicap, should be a handicap thing, is exempt anyway, so like
Okay. Do I hear a motion? We can talk about it a little bit further, but do we have a motion first?
How would that sound?
Make it up.
It would be the recommendation.
It's on the recommendation.
Well,
But
the
not with the
recommendation,
exist, that's with only the 2, we're talking about
Uh-huh.
the 3
Oh,
and
right,
6,
right,
only
right.
6.
You see?
All,
so I recommend the trustees amend chapter 8, section 803, regulation of motor vehicles of the Essex Junction Municipal Code by adding the following. Park Street, there shall be a 2-hour parking limit on the easterly side for all parking spaces in front of 34 Park Street,
Excluding handicap
Excluding
spaces.
handicap.
excluding handicap spaces.
second,
Second, who got the second? Lori?
Lori.
Dan? Okay, Lori got it. Okay, you know what, here's my prediction. Eventually, there are gonna be meters.
Well,
Meters.
okay, so I was gonna bring that up. Why don't we?
Talk to him, he's the meter.
Why don't we have meters?
Lori, I've been saying the same thing, I think it's the aspect of you'd have to have meter maids or somebody, but that's fine, right?
Hopefully
You know,
we pay for some of
we
it
have
through
people-
the
We have people that
meters.
come out and for the school year, that stand at intersections and monitor for the children. I'm sure there's somebody that's out there maybe that is looking for some part-time work or some work that, you know, it doesn't involve a lot, but just going around monitoring the meters and collecting the currency that's inside and.
Now, wait a second, let me add something here. Maybe there's a metaphysical connection, because Montpelier and St. Albans, they have metered parking.
See? That's
Maybe
what
there's,
we're
maybe
talking
have metered parking
In
is
the
slow
first
traffic.
step.
Because people are looking for spaces. I don't know. All
Well,
right, you know what,
that's
we're not
another
gonna make this
topic,
decision
yes.
tonight, but maybe it's something to look into, okay?
That would make a lot of people look more for our public parking lots.
Yes.
Use
It
those
would
more
probably
often.
also get us booted out of office, I'm not sure.
Probably.
We'll see. But, let's save this
I would wanna
discussion
see
for-
an
Except that
inventory of
people-
the spaces that would be metered,
And
because
the-
I'm I don't know that
Yeah.
the return on investment is.
But in certain areas, it might be a good
In
idea.
some areas, and it would be
Yeah.
interesting to see if we would get booted out of office, because a lot of people who live in the village walk.
They want it,
So they're not
Yeah.
driving in parking in these parking spaces.
yeah, okay.
But you are allowing, you say, you are allowing a lot of new dwellings to come into the village without adequate
Yes.
parking. So
Yes.
you're sending a very big mixed message
That is
to
true.
people who come here that, come on, there's plenty of on-street parking, that's what we want you to do, except now you've got a 2-hour limit.
And you have to pay for it.
You know, I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Okay, well, we have a motion on the table. Any further discussion about the motion that's on the table? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Thank you, guys. And now we are on to FY19 budget request for the Bike Walk Advisory Committee. Ms. Chawla. Hello.
So, not sure how to begin. We are asking for a modest allocation for next year's budget, $5,000. We've included kind of a brainstorming goal, set of goals that we've come up with. Some of this dates back to, was it Building Healthy Communities? The work that was done in, I think, 2011 that preceded the Bike Walk Committee. Some of this is a continuation of work that we've been doing, and so we've broken it down by, and a lot of it's very hopeful. This is a very optimistic list. It's kind of a wish list as opposed to a realistic goal list. We've had, as a group, we've had some trouble coming up with exactly what dollar amount would go with every goal that we have on here. But, you know, we talked earlier about Maple Street. We've talked a lot about kids getting to and from school and what we've noticed, what the police have noticed. Everybody's seen the issues we have. So some of the money we envision going to signs in the bike lanes, striping in the bike lanes. Of course, we'd have to talk to Rick about what's legitimate and what's not.
Yep.
Rick Hamlin, but, you know, you're going the wrong way. It would involve having either curriculum developed, found, or taught, maybe by district phys ed teachers. Maybe getting locomotion or other agencies to come in and do a 2-day segment in each of the schools, just to kind of, it may involve paying someone on a rotating basis once a week to go to different places during school times and coach kids into doing the right thing. So that's one aspect of where we see the budget going. In terms of what we were talking about earlier, slowing people down, you know, we thought, we're looking at what, I forgot the name of the developing Essex Junction does a lot of, what's that group? Never mind. We've talked about having a speaker come in and talk to our planning commission and our select board and trustees. Someone from another like-sized community that has been successful with alternative ways of
That's great.
impacting traffic and increasing pedestrian and bike usage. To talk to the planning commission, to talk to the boards, to maybe do some training with the police department. This is what's worked. Maybe
Sure.
it's from a law enforcement agency. You bring them in, you get them around to the different agencies in 1 or 2 days, and invite the public in to hear what they have to say as well. You know, and that's more of a long-term effort to start thinking about how to implement structural changes that, you know, we've always, in these meetings, we always come up with ideas, and Rick Hamlin's great at, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Well, we can do that, but, so there's a dizzying amount of regulation out there, but other communities are having success with this. So that's where some of the funds would go, trying to look to other communities and bring experts in to,
Yeah.
for brainstorming sessions. Basically, it's education and some materials. We'd also like to work with the town, EGRP, EPR, the town, Trails Committee, to kind of get a comprehensive walking and biking map, resource map, in digital form and grid form.
That's a great idea.
Connecting all of the parks and all of the
Yeah.
neighborhoods, connecting out to Colchester, maybe out to Williston, and just really, and Jericho is really ramping up their efforts with recreation and the recreation department as well. I know that the town of Essex had some mapping done. That was an email I went back and forth a little bit. So building on that and continuing that work. And that'll take some effort and some resources.
Very good.
Right?
Questions for Raj?
This is just my ignorant question. I don't recall if there was a line item for the committee last year.
I don't believe so.
So this is the first budget request that you've gotten from you guys.
Yeah. I think it's only been the tree committee. That's
Tree committee, right.
Speaking of, in terms of equity, they're at 10,000. Is there a reason why we don't wanna fund trees and bike walking at the same level?
Fair is not the same.
I wouldn't wanna have that conversation today, but I'd like to see, you know, have they spent their entire budget in 1 year? You know, that would be worth asking.
Yeah, I think, if I could be wrong, or maybe I'm just imagining this, but I think the first year we did it, there was some specific project that they were gonna take on about planting that they needed,
Mhm.
do you recall that,
Yeah,
Lori,
there
is
was
that right?
something to do with the cost
And I
of
think
trees
we
that
just-
got to
we just
that amount.
continued it.
Yeah, but I think it's a good question to have during budget day.
Yeah, okay.
So
Absolutely.
I would say, I honestly couldn't tell you how the committee would spend $10,000.
Yeah,
As I said, we had a hard time putting dollar amounts to these things.
Yeah.
yeah.
So we talked about 10 because the tree committee has 10. We're like, 5 is good.
Hey!
Bike rack is this much, tree is this much.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we need to start there
Okay.
necessarily. I'd rather see us spend money on those rapid reflecting beacons that you see at a couple of our crosswalks that are really, really effective. And those are pricey.
Yeah,
And in this list I provided, I mean, we have an ambitious goal of 2 pair per year around the village. That's pricey.
Mhm.
So I think we can take that. Plus, we're pretty good at finding grants.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, Tim.
okay.
With bike safety and crossing intersections, I know over at West Street Extension, there was something put into the pavement there, sensors for bikes and as well as marking on the roadway. I'm just curious, I mentioned it to Rick a long time ago, or right after at least that sensor was put in, possibly doing it down here on South Street, the intersection of Park Street, where there's a tremendous amount of traffic through there. And not only just bicycles, but even motorcycles can't trip. They're not, the sensor for the vehicle's trip is not triggered by a motorcycle or a bicycle at that intersection there. So just something to think about.
Yeah, I thought they were universal. I didn't realize that they had put, because I
No.
came onto the committee right after they had done that.
They have not,
I think there's one at the, interestingly, the one at Rockies, once I remember the story.
oh, there's one there at Iroquois?
Because we did like a bike, a
Yeah.
community bike, and it was a big deal to go and
If that was
bike
something,
over it, then it'll go.
just something
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing, right? And yeah, so that's something but my understanding was that all those sensors were universal. I didn't realize that
No.
motorcycles wouldn't do it.
no.
Probably expensive to put in.
Okay.
One question, one thing I'm curious on, I don't know if you know the answer. Going through Williston from time to time, and you see with their nice new paving, how they have the bright green
Yeah.
crosswalks.
Yeah.
So I actually sent Rick an email asking about that.
Yeah.
And they are expensive to maintain and keep painted.
Yeah.
They use a different paint apparently than the village has its own way of doing things. There seems to be a theme tonight.
The village way.
So there were a couple reasons like that. And they discussed it and decided not to do it. I was a little disappointed. I thought, especially on Pearl and some other areas, that it would have been helpful. I think it's frustrating that we go from half a bike lane to none,
Yeah.
to some to none, and all of that has been redone.
Right.
Mhm.
Federal money, state money, village taxpayer money went to the part in front of the fairgrounds where there are no bike lanes, in front of that mall. And that is just a congestion point again, and then it opens up, and then it's only one here, and we put the building in with the big giant sidewalk with no bike lane on that side. So, yeah, there's a lot of, it's interesting. We might try to push the village to do some suggested pathway marking in Five Corners. You know, if people like Burlington does the baked-in cobblestone mark.
Mhm.
You know, if the sidewalks were more, and the pathways through Five Corners were more substantial, at least looking,
Yep.
people might take them into account a little more.
Yeah.
But
I'd like those, I like that idea. We should, I
Mhm.
would be, I think we'd all be interested in hearing more about that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff. Burlington's really pushing the envelope on some of the stuff works, some of it doesn't.
Yep.
An interesting example is, I can send you guys the videos, in the St. Paul, Howard Street area, that weird
Mhm.
it's another 5-corner.
Mhm.
They did an experiment for a while where they pushed out with cones and striping and planters the curbs, and they really narrowed all that in, and it slowed people way down.
Yeah.
And it made the crossings narrower so people could actually cross the street. And they did that for 6 weeks, and it was really, really effective.
They've done it a couple other spots, I believe, in the city there. And I think it's very effective, I agree with you.
And that's the kind of thing I was talking about before, like really experimenting with, not narrowing it so they're dangerous and narrowing so people have to go 15 miles an hour, but really making it so you have to pay attention to where you're going. And that,
Other questions, comments? Okay, do I hear a motion?
Make a motion that the village trustees approve a $5,000 fiscal year 2018 budget allocation for the Bike Walk Advisory Committee.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Coming
Raj,
on.
for everything that you guys do.
Yep. I believe that wraps up the agenda, Pat. Unless I'm leaving something out
For new business, it does.
for new business, and so we're on to the manager's report.
Well, you have your trustee meeting schedule,
Yep.
and I'll call your attention to one of the dates is December 26th. That turns out to be a holiday for the employees in both the town and the village.
Yeah.
It's the day after Christmas, so I think your options would be to reschedule that, or cancel it, or don't make a decision now and wait and see what life looks like for that last week in December, which
Yes.
is a very quiet week, so I don't know what to predict. We have a lot of new people and a lot of new places during the budget time, so I can tell you right now, we're behind last year's schedule a little bit, learning curve year, so. And Florida will try to make up the difference, and I'll try to make up the difference, but,
Good on.
Yeah. The only thing I'm gonna mention is that we're gonna be meeting with the select board all day December 2nd, and that, depending on the outcome of that meeting, so,
also the 12th,
Oh, December 2nd?
the 2nd and the 12th.
oh, sorry, Lori. Yes.
Sorry, that's my fault, I wasn't at the meeting.
No, I'm sorry about that, yeah, I forgot about that.
Saturday.
And so we may want to, all I'm saying is we may want to be flexible about that other joint meeting, because we may need something to happen before then, depending on the
Yes.
outcome of what happens on
Sure.
December 2nd. That's I'm not trying to change it, I'm just
Oh,
saying.
no,
It might get changed because of circumstances.
This is not etched in stone, it's just
I
a
have a family
snapshot.
trip. I have a family trip. I just booked flights out of town that weekend,
Ooh, well, sorry.
What weekend is that?
the day of the interviews. I mean, I just booked them today, because I
Oh.
had no idea we were scheduled anything.
When are you leaving town?
Friday,
The first?
first I come back Sunday.
Well, it was in the original schedule that we were going to be Thursday, Friday, and we were supposed to be that Friday, so we didn't think.
Well, I'm
we
not
would-
leaving till 4:30 Friday.
Okay.
I can't change it.
Yeah, well, we went through, what we went through at our last meeting was, Max and I had talked to Don Jutton about having us just sort of observe the professional panel day when they were interviewing the 6 candidates. And it was unanimously agreed upon by both boards that they didn't want to do that. So we then told Don, we're not going to do that. And so, but since Don was amenable to it, if you're going to be there, maybe he could make an exception and you alone could observe it. And I don't know.
I have a problem with not being at the interviews.
Well, I don't know what we can do. We scheduled this for,
I mean, a notification would have been helpful.
Have the,
yeah, go ahead, Pat.
forgive me for blurting, I know that 15 people have received the questionnaire to fill out. Have you and Max talked to Don, as to, has he whittled it down? Has he whittled that number down from 15 to an interviewable number yet?
I haven't, I don't know. I haven't talked to him about that.
Well, in the absence of that, is, I'm just picking up the ball from Lori if.
Yeah, I don't know. We've scheduled the rooms, we've scheduled everything for those 2 days. As I said, when we initially got the time frame from him,
So,
it said.
one, I never saw the time frame.
Oh, okay.
And two, if this was decided last Wednesday, I'm wondering why I'm just hearing about it.
I don't know.
So, one of the reasons I ran again was to help select the manager, and I feel all 10 members should be at that meeting.
Yeah.
So the candidates, we don't have the list of 6 yet, so the date,
Is that what you're trying to
none of the
say?
candidates know when they're supposed to come.
That's exactly what I'm saying. In the event of that, it might not be too late to reschedule.
And I'm
meeting.
sorry to do this to everyone, I know you guys have put in a lot of effort on this, but,
Well, what's the date you're available? It would have to be after that.
so I'm back on, Sunday evening, and I'm here the whole rest of December.
What's everyone else's thought?
Could we try Monday, the 4th?
Well, we.
I'm not, a work day is not gonna work for me, but, I mean, that's why it's Saturday. I think Saturday is good for everybody. That's why I think we were saying
So the
Saturday.
9th?
So help me understand, there's something happening on Friday and something happening on Saturday?
Friday is the all-day panel session. That's when the professional panels and the
staff,
citizen panels and that's, again, that might be tricky because he, I'm guessing he may have already reserved, told, a lot of those are working people. They're town managers and they may have already scheduled that time off. Plus, to change that date, we also would have to meet with the select board. I'd have to have, would have to get the 5 of them in the room to all agree. They all agreed to, that Saturday was okay for them.
Well, can't we do another doodle
We could,
to see if the next weekend is available?
we could.
And then we can make a decision from there.
I'm one person on the board of trustees. You can ask the other 3 if you want.
Well, that was to everyone.
We don't seem to have much choice in the matter. We should just try to reschedule.
So, I mean, phone weekend, whatever.
Let me just offer a potential silver lining. There was a big hope that there was gonna be a large citizen participation. A lot of the people may be private sector individuals who can't afford to miss a day's work. And that would be a Friday when that panel is gonna be convened with the professional panel and the employees panel. And can I be a little selfish? You just heard me say we're a little bit behind. I don't know which employees would be chosen, but, this is budget time and, I would like to make sure I get to keep the key people working on the budgets to get them ready for the meetings. That's just, ignore me on that one. I can make do for sure, but I'm just saying that if you're looking for more than just one person who can't make it, there's some silver linings that could be expressed to your colleagues in the town and to Don, and if it can't happen, it can't happen, but I mean, it's.
Well, let me, what I'll do is I'll get in touch with Max tomorrow, and he'll have to work the town side and see, and get in touch with the select board. And I'll work this side, but the most important thing is, first thing we'll have to do is talk to Don and talk to him about it and see whether that can be changed. I don't know that it can't, I'm not.
Right, no, that's all I'm asking. is
Let's
that we try and do
just
this.
ask the other trustees right now, so
Yeah.
just clear up a little bit of it. Anyone have, if we met the following Saturday, would that be okay for the 4 of you?
It's
The
fine.
3
I
of you?
think so, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Waiting.
Aren't you faster? Come on.
Gotta wash my mouth there for a second.
That's good for you?
Yep.
Okay, so let me talk to Max. He'll have to get in touch with the select board, and then I'll be back in touch with you.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
No
everyone.
problem, no problem. So, okay, so, and then the other thing I was gonna just call everyone's attention to is the all-day budget session, which was another reason we wanted to do it on a Saturday, so that for those of us who have day jobs, they have to be somewhere, it means taking one less day off,
Yeah.
all day, December.
From what we just heard about possible delays, is that still gonna work for staff?
I'll make it work. We'll make it work. If we have to hand deliver budgets over the weekend or something, you think we're gonna make it? But we promised paper for the select board this year as the farewell swan song to,
Okay.
the electronic media. So we have to still put together those 3 reminders filled with paper. And I got new people doing it, but it'll be okay, Don't listen to me. I should just shut up.
Okay. Okay, anything else about the schedule? Everyone good? Should we move on to the reading file? Trustee comments, reading file? Everyone good?
Yeah.
And we've got we note with appreciation, the positive letter regarding the Pearl Street construction from Brenda Bennett. We appreciate that. And also Susan McNamara Hill's resignation from the Essex Rescue Committee, Community Advisory Board. And Pat, please thank Susan for us.
I will do that.
Our appreciation and our regrets that she can't continue,
Mhm.
but she does so much already. Anything else? Reading file? Everyone good? So we're on to the consent agenda.
George?
Yeah.
There's a question from the audience.
Yes, Irene, yes.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry to interrupt, but a village resident interviewed for the town position on this Community Advisory Board for Essex Rescue a few weeks ago, and we ended up appointing someone from outside the village. So I would just offer that up if you wanted to contact someone from the village who had an interest in doing that exact volunteer position. We have a name.
So someone from the village,
Applied for that position,
and they didn't get it?
right.
But
Okay.
now there's another position open, is what you're saying.
And now the village seat is open, which we said to her when
Okay.
she came to us, do you know there's a village seat? But
Okay,
it's
all right,
fine.
thank you, Irene,
So for
appreciate
what that's
that.
worth, thank you.
All right, and does the 20th work for you?
The 9th.
The 9th, I'm sorry, the
I don't have
9th?
a calendar here, I don't put my calendar.
It's a Saturday. Oh, you don't have your, okay.
I'll do it,
All right,
thanks.
yeah, thanks. Thank you, Irene. Okay, so we are on to the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
And I will second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And so we are on to, I am going to make a motion that we enter executive session at this time, and that to discuss a personnel matter in accordance with 1 VSA Section 313A3, and invite the village attorney to attend.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Quick,
All in,
so no staff need to be there?
no, just the village
Okay.
attorney. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay, sorry, didn't mean to say nay. So we are on to, let's take a little recess while we clear the room. Thank you. Thank you, folks.
You did not decide on the 26th.